Good afternoon, Roval Secondary students. Today, I know we're not on campus yet, but we are still able to bring you a really great video series with Roval Secondary College alum. And today, I'm delighted to be able to introduce Kim Landy from the class of 2008. So, welcome, Kim. It's lovely to have you here. Where are you? Whereabouts? Are you in Carlton?
I'm just at home. I live in Coburg, but my office is in Carlton. So
Okay.
normally ride there during the day, but it's closed at the moment because of everything. So
yeah. Well, I'll tell the students a little bit about your background. So after you left Roeville, you went to Melbourne Polytechnic and studied photo imaging and photography. I'm very jealous about that. I wish I'd done it. And then you went on to Deakin to study communication studies and media. And really, that was the start, as I see it, as a really successful career in photography and production. And you now run your own photography business, choosing very deliberately to work with socially conscious brands and organisations such as Oxfam, Beyond Blue, and also Getty Images freelancing for them, which is sort of the best you can get. So I'd say you've had a very successful run of it, and you've travelled along the way. And it seems, the last few years you've been to Vietnam, Japan, Thailand. It's a world away from the leafy suburbs of Roeville. So does school feel a long time ago, or do you have any fond memories that are really clear still?
School feels like a long time ago now, but my experience at school was still really amazing. And I had my fondest memories and thinking back to school were just sort of the experiences that I was able to have at Roeville. A lot of my friends that I've met later in life haven't had that opportunity to be able to explore different subjects like music or drama or what else did I do? Music industry and things like that, and media. And not a lot of schools have presented with those subjects as well. So I was lucky to be able to sort of move around and explore health and business and all of those subjects that I was sort of interested in, and that sort of gave me a good grounding as to giving me an idea of where I wanted to be. So Roeville did provide me with a lot of opportunity, which I'm pretty grateful for.
Excellent. Yeah, they have one great school, four great strengths is their current motto, and it really offers a lot for a very diverse range of students. Did you know that photography was always going to be the direction you were heading in from early days? Was there a defining moment or somebody you just thought, wow, look what they're doing, I want to do that?
I didn't look at anyone in particular, but I think I loved photography through high school and did it just for fun. Took photos of lots of my friends, and they had a band playing or something at lunchtime, so I'd take photos of the band and things like that. And so sort of developed my skills through doing just little photo projects throughout school. A defining moment was probably when I went overseas with school to Cambodia, and I took a photo of a lady in a market there. And I just submitted it to this competition, and I ended up coming second place as a young Australian photographer of the year, they called it.
Fantastic.
And I was quite surprised because I just submitted it on a whim kind of thing, didn't think anything of it. And that sort of spurred me on to want to build my folio and sort of follow it from there. So
so it was a passion you had already, an interest, and that's probably where I think an organic growth, things often snowball from there in the most natural way. So you went to Melbourne Poly, and then you went to Deakin, and that was more of a broader media and communications role. What did the course stack up to everything you thought it would be?
So it was a bit of a funny journey. So I finished high school. I went to TAFE, to Melbourne Polytechnic, for a year. Loved it. I'm a really sort of visual learner. So for me, TAFE was amazing because it's just really hands-on. You're not doing much theory. You're just sort of learning on the job.
Sounds good. Yeah.
And they set you up with really interesting businesses and opportunities that I'm not sure that I would have got. Maybe I would have got them going to university and studying photography. I'm not sure because I've never done photography at uni. And then from there, I got a job a newspaper wanted to talk to me about my passion. It was my passion article in the local newspaper, and I just got chatting to them, and I was like, how do I get a job, as a photojournalist? I really want to do this. And the photographer was like, oh, I'll just ask my boss if they've got any work experience places. I just wanted to see what it was like. And then they actually came back to me and said, we've got a full-time job available.
Wow, what a result. That's, if you don't ask, you don't get, do you? That's fantastic.
Yeah. And so from there, they gave me a cadetship at the newspaper, and I learnt really, it was 8 shoots a day. I'd be learning on the job, just thrown into any situation. And then I didn't go straight from TAFE to uni. I spent a few years working for the newspaper it was full-time work, and I was just really appreciative of what it was and the opportunities that I was getting just from work itself. So, and then I decided to go back to uni, but I actually only did uni for about a year. And I've deferred just because work just exploded from there. And I found that uni was really helpful in me being able to talk to marketing, comms people, people that are running the photo shoots a lot of the time, and sort of that back end of the business. It was really helpful for me. But yeah, so if you're looking at photography, TAFE's amazing. I would highly recommend it. Yeah.
And from the sounds of it as well, getting a cadetship and asking, putting yourself out there, because often learning on the job in a practical role is the best way to learn. And now you're doing something I find really inspiring. You are working with really well-known brands and organizations, social responsibility brands, who and helping them tell their story, curate their story, which is what every big brand organization needs to do, whether it's to attract awareness to their cause or attract funders. Was that something that was always sort of going to be your pathway? It seems like it runs very close to your heart. And can you sort of say what your work means to you?
I'm just so lucky. Like, I count my lucky stars. It's sort of the social enterprise and the documentary work wasn't always what I did. It's been a real journey to get to these brands and to get to this point. And it's really just because I've asked people what to do. I've sat down for coffees. I've talked to them about my passion for these projects and for helping people. And so that was one of the things that helped me. People kept me in the back of their minds for when they actually needed journalistic work or documentary work. And once a lot of the businesses that I work with are startups as well, so they don't always have funding to pay. So a couple of the jobs I did in the beginning weren't paid for, but they could pay for my flights and things like that. And I just use that as like a catalyst to sort of get to the next job and get to the next job. But yeah, I feel like my work, I'm just so lucky. Like I just get to go into people's homes and document their lives. And I think photos can just be just so powerful. And I'm bearing witness to so much history. And I really feel like a photograph can make change as well. So a photograph can hold NGOs accountable to where they're at, to how much money they're putting in overseas. There's so much that just a simple photo can do.
It's a very important area of work. What does a day in the life of Kim Landy look like? But I should think every day is quite different, depending on who and where you're working with.
It's really hard because every day is different, and I love a bit of routine as well. So say if I've been in Australia for like the last 6 months. So normally when I'm back home, I'm doing a lot of commercial photography and editorial stuff. So that sort of involves me working with people like Beyond Blue or Melbourne Uni or something like that. So a day in the life of a shoot would sort of look like I'd be prepping all my gear the night before, and then I'd get up at 6 a.m, meet all the talent. So normally we hire models and things like that for these type of shoots at like 8 o'clock, brief everyone. So you're kind of like a production manager as well, or a producer. So you've got to make sure everyone's on the same page. You're talking to marketing people, making sure you're all getting the right content. And then you'd kick off a shoot at sort of around 9 once everything opens up. And your shoot could be at 4 different locations. So you'll be running around Melbourne or wherever the shoot's based. and trying to transport everyone at the same time, making sure everyone's fed, but also trying to take on board the light and the technicalities of the shoot, and if a model's not working, what do you do, and all of those things. So there's so much to think about, and for those commercial shoots, that's probably the thing I struggle with is the most. Like, I just love to take photos. Photography sort of comes down to the tiniest percentage of the actual day sort of thing. So that's it's really interesting sometimes. It can be quite difficult for me because I just love the photo stuff, and you've got to sort of remember why you're there, and the end result of all of that stuff. So that would be sort of a normal shoot day. The day-to-day is probably the normal stuff is editing, so much editing, so much retouching, so many emails and so many meetings, I think, are the main things for me, 9 to 5. So that would just involve me going in, just riding into the office and working on a project that I've shot the week prior. And then there's when I'm overseas, there's a whole bunch of other elements. So you're dealing with different cultural backgrounds and language barriers, and making sure people understand why you're there. So communities and vulnerable community members as well. So make sure they know where the photos are going. So that's probably the thing I struggle with the most, is just making sure that people are comfortable and we're not pushing our agendas onto them. But yeah, so
do you have?
Sorry,
I was going to say, do you have when you go overseas, and I imagine it's very diplomatic, sensitive at times. Do you have a person out there who kind of introduces you, or can be like the go-between to explain? And
so we always have a translator with us. So the day in the life would look like we'd get up really early, probably. So I'll give you an example. We went to Bangladesh last year with Thank You. And we had 3 days to capture everything, and it was just me, and I was doing photography and video and producing as well. So I had someone from Thank You with me who was sort of the community manager who made sure all the projects were working, but we also had a translator who was Bangladeshi as well, and she sort of helped us talk to everyone. But we do have people beside us from whoever we're working with, whether it's Oxfam or World Vision, who know the projects so well and are able to explain to the communities. But we'd normally, wake up at 6, drive for 3 hours to a small village, sit down with the members of the community for around an hour and just talk to them, because I really feel like it's important. Yeah, it's so respect. I would hate to think that they'd sort of felt used and abused kind of thing, and we'd just come in and out and got what we needed. I'd rather get to know everyone. And it's also great for us to be able to see who's really confident in talking, and who we might decide to use for the photo shoot, who's willing and able to talk to us as well. So that works out really well.
I think it's fascinating, the range of people you must meet, it's incredible.
It's but even back in Melbourne, the shoots are so diverse. So with my Getty work as well, I could be taking photos of someone just that's come out of court who's guilty, or has been charged with something, and you're running down the street chasing them, and they don't want to be photographed. But also you could be doing really meaningful work as well, like telling a story of a guy in Coburg who's been trapped in his house with in isolation, and he bakes cakes for his neighbors or things like that. It's very, very diverse. And
it sounds it. Do you have and this is one of those horrible questions, but do you have a favorite project of everything you've or not, or one that, not maybe favorite, the one that you feel most satisfied or proud of, the outcome for helping the organization that was involved? And again, you've worked for some great organizations, so it's probably an unfair question.
It's really tricky to narrow down, because there's so many stories from every trip. One of the stories that sort of was my favorite would be when we went to Zimbabwe. We went to a hospital there, and it was very women focused. So a lot of the women get go through childbirth in their rural villages. They don't go to hospital, but they go through quite traumatic births because they don't have much help, and so they get a lot of complications of that, which is called fistula. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I think I saw something about this. I think I saw part of a documentary on TV recently about this exact subject,
Yeah,
and how little there is for them. Really,
yeah, and it's debilitating, so it's lifelong, and it can kill as well.
yeah.
But for a lot of these women, they can't, so they don't have access to medical care, and this hospital basically is free for them to go to and get sewn up. So it's not a very nice thing to think about, but they help them sort of repair what's the damage that's been done. And some of these women's husbands have left them and things like that because of the how awful it is, and they end up taking them back, and it's very weird. But there's so many beautiful stories of these women that have their empowerment back, and they're able to rejoin their communities that they've been banished from, and things like that.
Life changing for them though, and it's a fact
so
of their life.
life-changing.
Yeah, their reality,
so,
and you'd never know about it unless someone documents it. So it's very
and so
important.
prevalent. Another one would have to be when I was in Nepal. We went to a little nurses station up in the Himalayas, so we're driven hours and hours to get to the top. And it was just all about maternity health as well. And a woman had walked probably a day or so in labour to get to this hospital.
Wow.
There was actually no one there when she got there, as far as doctors or nurses went. But we had an obstetrician, a doctor with us on the trip, who actually ran the organisation. So he just put his gloves on and jumped in there. And everyone had gumboots on, and I thought, I'd never seen a childbirth before, so I didn't know what was about to happen, what was about to unfold. But it was the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed, and this lady gave birth, and we were able to photograph it as well, and the whole story was giving birth safely, and how the Nepalese government are training nurses and midwives to be within small communities, and how the sort of mortality rates are dropping now. Mortality rates? No. Yeah. Because of these midwives that are helping people birth, and that birthing in a hospital is becoming more common now, instead of doing it at home. So that was sort of a beautiful thing as well. And the baby was healthy because of that doctor that could help.
Fantastic. And photographs and documenting that, that when it's shared around, well, it's education. It's education in particularly in the more remote parts of the world. It's very, very powerful work you do. And I actually think every day is very different. And
it is.
Current times are quite different right now as well. I think we're starting to sort of see the other side of it, and I think it won't be a normal return to life. It'll be a new normal where it will still be restricted, but life will sort of tick along in a quieter way. Have you found, we were talking earlier, your work has been impacted a little bit, but now you're getting busy again as clients sort of start ringing again?
Yeah.
How have things changed for you with work?
It's changed significantly with COVID. I think I also shoot weddings as well. So weddings were quite looking quite busy for the end of the year. So I shoot about 10 to 15 a year. And so all of them have cancelled now. So that's a big impact to my wage. But also businesses aren't willing to spend money at the moment as well. So they're not looking at doing new campaigns. They're holding off on things. So there's not many emails coming through the door at the moment. And so I'm using this time to be able to catch up on things that I never catch up on, really, like accounts and updating my website, and calling older clients that I haven't worked with for a while. But
sort of all the housekeeping duties, isn't it, that running your own business is very, very, you do everything from changing the light bulb to doing the actual work to sending the invoice.
That's it. So there's it's great that I've got bits and bobs to do, and I'm in a pretty good spot as well, so I can't complain too much.
I was going to
But
say, I'm sure. Obviously, you work with Beyond Blue, and
yep,
I know the government has just announced an official new role for mental health, because the fallout, if you like, or the impact of
yep,
COVID-19 will be significant on a lot of people and their mental health. So I think a lot of budget will be put into that area. So fingers
yeah.
crossed, all the non-profits that should get some will
Hopefully,
get some, and
I
from
hope so.
yeah. And
Yeah.
do you have sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, something similar like that. I do a bit of work for the Salvation Army, and they have their Red Shield appeal coming up, which is very COVID related. And so they're putting a lot of their budgets into that sort of thing. So
That's
I'm really
good. Yeah,
hoping that the people that I get to partner with are sort of going to do a similar thing as well.
fantastic. What advice would you give your year 12s, your year 11 counterparts as of sort of 10 years ago, if you could say anything to them right now?
I would say one of the best pieces of advice that I got when I just finished high school was just keep an open mind, keep learning. Don't ever stop learning. Do as much study as you can. I reckon even having a degree is really valuable, even if you don't continue with it, or your TAFE certificate, whatever you decide to do. I think just go for it, and I think don't let anyone tell you you can't do it, because you'll get a lot of no's throughout the
Mm,
journey.
yeah,
You'll get 100 no's and one yes. And so
yeah,
I think that's really important to just don't quit. And you'll get that one yes, and that will spiral into the work you really want to be doing as well. Yeah.
you're absolutely right. That's really good advice. And I remember something somebody said to me a long time ago, and it was just a colleague who said, it's funny, but the more calls I make, the luckier I get. And I just
Mm,
thought, obviously the more calls you make, someone will, the odds go up, you will get lucky, but
absolutely.
it's
Yep.
not luck, it's persistence, and it's, sticking at it.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
well, I'm very, very envious of your world. No, it must be so interesting. And photography is something I love as well, but don't have your skill set. But when I do see a picture that sort of stops me in my tracks, I either try and buy it or just remember it, and go back and look at it online. So thank you ever so much for sharing all your very, very valuable advice and experiences. And I'm sure there'll be loads of students with more questions. So when school's back in properly, please come back and see us.
I'd love to.
Which campus were you on? Were you
I
West
was
Campus?
I was East, and then we transferred to West in year 11
Okay.
and 12. I don't know if they still do that anymore, but started in East from 7 to 10. Yeah,
Well, you'll have to come back and you can be asked a million questions and bring your portfolio and everything. That would be great. No,
great.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you ever
Sounds
so
good.
much.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.